As you probably know by now, I'm sure you've seen this joint FBI Department of Homeland Security bulletin. It's now warning of what they call unprecedented violent threats in the wake of the search of Mar-a-Lago. Do you hold the former President Donald Trump responsible for inciting his supporters?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, Wolf. So, I posted a thread somebody put up of a number of folks on TikTok that were putting out, not just anti-government, but really threats to violence, pictures of their guns saying it's time, we're coming. This is ridiculous. And it's ridiculous, obviously, for what the former president has done in terms of saying this is, an attack on my home. I did nothing wrong. And of course, the little bit we do know, it seems like there's certainly at least good reason for the FBI to have done what they did. But then members of Congress, senators, any Republican elected official out there that rushes to be the first on television or the first to Twitter to basically condemn the FBI. Look, I'll tell you, as a guy that grew up obviously in the right and grew up as a Republican, there's always been this strain of people that believe that the government is, out there to get them, that the FBI represents that part of the government that's out there to get people. This stokes that. It's really dangerous, and I fear it could get worse unless people are way more responsible.
And clearly the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security fear the same thing. The New York Times is reporting, Congressman, that former President Trump tried to pass a message along to the Attorney General Merrick Garland saying, and I'm quoting now from the story, "The country is on fire. What can I do to reduce the heat?" Does it strike you as odd that the man who actually set the fire apparently tried to ask the Attorney General to put it out?
Yeah, it's a creepy message, to be honest with you, just like, frankly, Donald Trump and his supporters have become quite creepy in how they're acting and what they're threatening. I don't know what it means. Only, Donald Trump in his own head knows what that means. But it does strike me as something like, what you hear from the mafia, hey, if you want your store to be secure, give us money, we'll make sure you're secure. When in fact, there was never a threat in the first place. I think, look, to every Republican out there that's knee-jerk reaction is to defend this guy, let me just say this. I know people are very frustrated that Merrick Garland did not move faster, for instance, on some of the January 6th stuff. I don't think this is a man that is apt to overreact and do it too quickly. I think it takes a lot of information for him to do that. And in this case, for him to approve a raid on Mar-a-Lago to go after what appears to be classified information, there had to be good reason. And I would encourage anybody in a position of authority to take some time, figure out what this is before you just jump on the Donald Trump bandwagon on this.
Yeah, good point. The explanations for this from Mr. Trump and some of your fellow Republicans range from brushing it off as not a big deal to conspiracies about planted documents. But just how serious was the risk to national security to have these highly sensitive classified documents stashed away at a resort and event space?
Well, look, from some of the things I've heard, just kind of reported on open source, that some of the classification of these documents were such that you can't even talk about what the classification was because the classification in and of itself is classified. So that would go to imply that these are some pretty serious situations and that nobody should have access to these except for the few in government that are currently in government at the time. The explanations from Donald Trump fearing stuff was planted to all of a sudden saying he just mentally declassified this stuff to saying, well, people take work home all the time. It's just like anything, just like January 6th when it started out as an Antifa operation, then it was the FBI, and then it was really just a bunch of tourists, and then it was a bunch of people that were misunderstood. There's always an evolving explanation, but that evolving explanation is always a lie, and it points to the fact that Donald Trump knew what he was doing. So I don't know the details of the raid, but it certainly seems like Donald Trump's explanation is not accurate.
Quickly, before I let you go, Congressman, the only other Republican, as you well know, on the January 6th Select Committee, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the vice chair, faces steep odds in her primary tomorrow out in Wyoming. What will it say about your party if she were to lose her seat?
Well, I think it shows that the party's in a bad place. Look, we are standing up against evil. Liz Cheney is standing up against evil. And I say this, I put out this message the other day, which is, a lot of people sit around and they dream about the day they get to do it, and very few people ever get that chance to really stand up against evil. And as you've seen in Congress, many that do get that chance don't. She has fought a valiant fight. Her fight is not over regardless of what happens on Tuesday, and I think it says a lot about the party if she loses. I think it says a lot about the party that we're quick to say defund the FBI and support a guy like Donald Trump.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, thanks so much for joining us.
Anytime, Wolf.
Coming up, U.S. intelligence officials have worried